What's the best third-party content for Pathfinder 2nd Edition? Which ones are worth checking out? And if you use third-party content, is that like cheating on Pathfinder 2e? Because it's a third and a couple is two, and it's like cheating. Does anyone even get these stupid jokes? Does anyone understand the stupid intro nonsense I actually come up with? Or should I just stop bothering? This is the Dominomicon, authored and hosted by me, Dominic. The Dominomicon is dedicated to all nerdy things, with my current obsession being the TTRPG Pathfinder 2nd Edition. In this video chapter, I'm going to be talking about third-party content for Pathfinder 2e. I decided on this for multiple reasons, but the biggest one being that I just don't think there's enough love shown for some third-party developers for this system. This might be a thing that I do regularly, either as part of my musings or actually as regular video chapters, where I can give shoutouts to creators that absolutely deserve it. Pathfinder 2e already has a ridiculous amount of content, so people don't tend to look for third-party expansions. That and balance is always a thing that people are worried about. But the system's been out long enough now that people are successfully making good, balanced content for it, and these guys definitely deserve support and a spotlight. So I'm going to be talking about a few different companies / authors and their products and recommending them, as well as handing out some minor critique when I feel it's necessary. If you find this video chapter helpful and or enjoyable, please give it a like and consider subscribing, joining as a member, or taking a look at my Patreon. So let's start up the music and get rolling. Rightio, so first up, I am not sponsored by anyone for this video. This is just me trying to get the word out about some developers / publishers, though there was a particular event that happened that sort of pushed me to finally do this video, which I'll get to in a sec. So I'm going to be going over 4 different third-party creators for this video chapter. You've probably heard of some of them, although if you're someone who never uses third-party content, then perhaps not. The content I'm going to mention is stuff that I believe is relatively well balanced, though literally going through every single thing and testing them in-game with groups is not something I'm able to do with my limited time, so that's the disclaimer for this video. From what I've seen, however, they do seem pretty balanced enough that I allow the content in multiple groups that I run. Speaking of disclaimers, the actual catalyst for this video chapter, as I briefly mentioned, was a particular company contacted me and offered to send as a gift one of their books. Again, I'd like to reiterate that I'm not sponsored by anyone for this video, but after I got this book, I found myself kind of astonished at how much effort had gone into it, especially considering I'd barely even heard of the content. I genuinely felt a little bad that content as good as this doesn't get enough of a spotlight in the PF2E community. There's companies out there that do tend to get a spotlight, 2 of which I'll mention in this video, but these guys have barely had anyone talk about them, at least as far as I'm aware. And it got me thinking about all the other third-party devs and publishers that I've probably never heard of. So if you're one of those guys, please email me so I can spread the word about your content in another video like this one. If we as a community want PF2E to get bigger and bigger, we have to be willing to put money down towards these creators, because some of the content they're creating is pretty much just as good as Paizo's, honestly. All the content I'm going to mention has Foundry and or Path Builder support, either full or partial, so this isn't just PDFs and books you're getting. You can actually bring these into your online sessions as well. Just thought I'd mention that. So with that out of the way, let's actually dive into the spark, if you will, for this particular video chapter. I feel like it's a travesty that I've not heard of Dr. Dhrolin's Dictionary of Dinosaurs by Paleo Games. So this is the one that I received as a gift from the company itself, and for whatever it's worth, it's not colored my opinions of the book, and that's mostly because of the sheer effort and passion that's actually gone into it anyway. I believe this was originally kickstarted for Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, and they ported it over to PF2E, but it's not just a generic port. They apparently spoke to developers for Pathfinder 2nd edition itself, or at least they said so in a Reddit post, so there's a lot of effort that's actually gone into this book with regards to making it balanced for PF2E. So first of all, this isn't just a book with 50+ dinosaurs and their stat blocks, although of course it does have that. It's 300+ pages to start, and the content value for money here is pretty high. This book also has a sort of scientific introduction talking about fossils, evolution, how paleontology works for those that are interested, and I know that that might not be something most people are going to care about, but it's kind of cool that it's in here. It then has some story hooks to help you push the whole dinosaur theme stuff into your games if you don't already have reasons or ideas for that. It's a nice, quick and easy way to shoehorn in some dino stuff for your Pathfinder game. Then we move on to a quick section that goes over what environment you'd find each type of dinosaur, something lacking in even Paizo bestiaries as far as I'm aware. Then there's the holistic environment section, which gives you a reconstruction of actual paleo environments with environmental effects with charts for hazards, flora, including consumables like elixirs, mutagens and bombs, etc., and a few dinosaurs. It's pretty extensive, and if you want to throw your party into an environment like this, the book's got you covered. And then, of course, is the bestiary itself with the full dinosaur alphabet, so you got like raptors and sauropods and pterosaurs, etc., plus a few backer-requested dinos. And then you've got a GM tools section for behavior, mutations, naming tables, rules for riding dinosaurs, etc. And then there's the ancestry section with 6 new dinosaur ancestries with feats all the way to level 17, the kind of anthropomorphic dinosaurs. And then there's some NPCs, a couple of archetypes, and the new druid subclass, the Order of Time, some backgrounds, and some gear like magic items, etc. So yeah, not just dinosaur stat blocks, there's quite a lot of content in this book. And the book itself is filled with pretty awesome art. It's not in the PF2E style, of course, but it is very well drawn and looks pretty awesome, and there's a significant amount of it. I think people underestimate how expensive and how time-consuming it is to do this sort of art. It's very easy to just make a 300-page book, and it's got like 3 pictures in it with a bunch of text. Anyone can write text, but not everyone can draw, and it's pretty amazing that there's so much art in this. It's one of the reasons the Paizo books are so high quality, in my opinion, and they also have a crap ton of art in there. So 2 things that stand out about this book to me is, first of all, just the ridiculous amount of effort. It honestly blew me away. All the scientific names for everything is in here. If this thing has a real-life equivalent, there's a scientific name in here for it. And there's even sources for where this information comes from. And that may seem minor and silly, especially in a fantasy game. You may see it as pointless, but it's just effort. It's just passion. Like, these guys really care about this stuff. And in my opinion, that's quite encouraging for the rest of the content in the book. If they really care about the subject matter, then they're going to care about everything they put in this book. The other thing for me is how the dinosaur abilities work. PF2E is well known for having lots of different monsters, and pretty much all of them have interesting and cool abilities. And this book not only has those things, but it has explanations for those abilities. Like, these abilities are based on how these dinosaurs acted in reality, at least as far as we're aware. For example, the Psittacosaurus was a sort of herd dinosaur that would get lost in the crowd of its own species, so they get the herd defense ability that gives them a +1 circumstance bonus to AC from ranged attacks when within at least 2 other Psittacosauruses. And the Centrosaurus had a big frill with 3 horns, so they do horn attacks, of course, but they can also raise their frill as a reaction to get a +2 circumstance bonus to AC. And it can also flush its frill, demoralizing creatures in a 10-foot emanation with a separate check for each creature. Whenever I flush my frill, people run away scared. Yeah, I don't actually know what that means. I think it was meant to be innuendo, but it kind of got lost on me. And there's even variants of dinosaur types in here too, to make them toxic or just higher level, etc., allowing you to use these dinos maybe more than once with differing effects. And I don't think I could talk about a dinosaur supplement book without mentioning the Backer dinosaur, the ancient Tyrannosaurus. Paizo has their own Tyrannosaurus Rex, but of course it's not going to be half as cool as this one. The physical book quality is really high too, if you're not getting that, and I know I've spoken about this book a heck of a lot, but it did really take me by surprise, and as I'd never really heard of Paleo Games, I wanted to make sure that the community knows of their work, so maybe they'll do more PF2E stuff in the future. I think I'd heard something about them in the past, but I'd not really thought there was a book out there that was this in-depth and this sort of quality. And this is the sort of content you could basically throw into any campaign in Pathfinder. If you're using any of the official APs, then you could throw in a dinosaur every now and then just for a random encounter or whatever, or even just a cool side quest where you're hunting a particular one. The dinosaurs in this book actually remind me of the Monsters of Myth Paizo book, because they have like special behaviors and that sort of thing, so tracking one down and hunting one could be a really cool side quest for your PCs. And if you want any of the content that I've just mentioned, it's a no-brainer to purchase this. Still, onto some minor criticism. There's nothing massive in here, there's only a couple of little bits that the GM could effectively fix instantaneously. For example, the shell coin. This is something that one of my players actually mentioned when I showed them this particular item. Basically, how this coin works is that it looks like a platinum coin, and you give it to someone and you can just call it back to yourself effectively whenever you want. The problem is that it has the manipulate trait, but if you've given it to someone, how can you manipulate or interact with it if you don't have it? It does specifically say that you call it back to you. Yes, I guess. But it's just one of those teeny tiny nitpicking things. How do you manipulate something if you don't have it, you know? Also, it'd be nice if we had contents on the right of each page, like Paizo tend to do, so it's easier to navigate around, and that's something I would like to see in all supplements going forwards. But as I said, this is sort of nitpicking, and this supplement is just really, really good. If you really like dinosaur things, you should absolutely pick this up if you have the spare cash. As far as I'm aware, this is Paleo Games' only book thus far, and the other creators I'll be talking about have multiple out there. Speaking of, let's move on and take a look at the next creator I have lined up. So, on Pathfinder Infinite, you will find a series of books made by Michael Hosp, and the effort gone into these is, once again, kind of insane. Going in chronological order is Retinues of the Roaming Hero, Heresy of the Whispering Way, Soldiers of the Immortal War, Sailors of the Sightless Sea, and Lodgings of the Roaming Hero. I have personally used Heresy of the Whispering Way and Soldiers of the Immortal War relatively significantly myself, and in one of my paid campaigns I currently have a player who's actually playing as the Inquisitor class that comes as part of Soldiers of the Immortal War. So at this point I can more or less personally vouch for how fun the Inquisitor is to play, and if you're looking for an Inquisitor class, and I have mentioned this in a previous video of mine, you should definitely grab Soldiers of the Immortal War. The class is kind of like a focus spell version of a martial, and it works really well. There's even an archetype to make it more spellcaster oriented. It's very impressive, and honestly just all the content from Michael Hosp is impressive. And you know what's even more impressive than all this stuff? All of it is pay what you want. Now I don't just want to encourage people to download all of these and not pay a penny, but maybe download one of them, and if you like it, maybe pay for another one. Of course, it's all depending on your financial situation. I'm not going to tell you how to spend your money, but I just personally think that Michael Hosp keeps releasing these really interesting and really cool books and deserves a little bit of financial compensation. So the first book, Retinues of the Roaming Hero, is only 20 plus pages, but everything after that is like 50 pages plus. They tend to be themed books, so Heresy of the Whispering Way is, you know, about undead and necromancy and that sort of dark content. Although I guess Heresy of the Whispering Way might be slightly outdated as a necromancer class, which obviously we're going to be getting ourselves soon enough. But still, that particular book is 60 pages long, and Soldiers of the Immortal War is close to 120. Like, we're really getting up there with the amount of content in here. And Sailors of the Sightless Sea is all about the Darklands, and again, this has almost 130 pages. It's just filled to the brim with really awesome content. Honestly, all of these books have way too much content for me to go over in a video like this, but just check them out for yourself. Honestly, they're amazing. Lodgings of the Roaming Hero is 50 pages, talking about land ownership, and it does have a few feats and rituals and even siege stuff in there, and like upgrading bases with rooms and stuff. I'll actually be using some of that in some of my campaigns, so that's awesome. So yeah, the books are themed and tend to include more than just one thing. They tend to have stuff like archetypes, dedications, magic items, as well as classes and optional ways to play other classes, such as bringing the old Oracle curses back into the game as a class archetype, the Ever Cursed. And honestly, that's what I mean about Michael Hosp content. They're just like stuff in all of them that you're probably going to end up using. So I absolutely definitely recommend at least taking a look, maybe grab one for free, and then if you want more of that stuff, please consider paying. Soldiers of the Immortal War in particular is filled to the brim with a lot of content, and it's absolutely worth forking some money out for it, in my opinion. Plus, there's full Foundry and Path Builder support as ever, which is pretty amazing. Okay, let's move on to some of the more popular third-party creators. Roll for Combat's got a lot of content for Pathfinder 2nd Edition under the name Battlezoo, and you can pretty much guarantee balance with this, as one of the co-creators of PF2E, Mark Seifter, works for Roll for Combat, so that's always lovely to know. So if you're looking for a lot more ancestries, then these are the guys to go to, quite frankly, because they have a crap ton of them. And again, there's Foundry and Path Builder support for all of them, as far as I can tell. If you want to play as an actual dragon, or you want to play as a demon, or a living spell, or a sphinx, or even a redcap if you want to murder people horrendously, then these are the books for you. There's so many ancestries and a lot of the supplements across the board. Some are unbelievably weird and some are kind of not too out there, like trolls and giants, etc. But it's kind of staggering how much there are. And there's a few free ones available too, like the Demigod's Ancestry, so you can check out a little Battlezoo content without having to pay to see if it's your cup of tea. And on top of that, they have also done a couple of supplements for extra monsters. If you grab the Strange and Unusual and the Battlezoo Bestiary, you got a bunch of extra options in there for throwing monsters at your groups. Lest we forget Battlezoo Eldamon, which is a fully created balanced class for PF2E. And I know what a lot of people are going to think when they hear the word Eldamon. They're going to think Pokemon and roll their eyes, and yeah, I get it. That's basically what the Eldamon trainer class actually is. But there is the Eldamon Avatar, which honestly is just a really awesome, interesting class. So you get the abilities of an Eldamon as a normal PC, kind of like a Kineticist, but there's more and weirder elements to choose from. It's really cool, and it's wisdom based as well, which is always nice. But yeah, Roll for Combat, they have their own YouTube channel, which you probably heard of if you know anything about Pathfinder, and I definitely recommend taking a look at their stuff. They just keep pumping out more and more content. Honestly, I can barely keep up with the amount of cool stuff they throw out there, and I've not had a chance to buy all of it to really test it all out yet, but what I have tested is all just really good stuff. My biggest critique, I guess, would probably be the website itself, as I cannot find any Battlezoo content in Pathfinder Infinite, though it is on DriveThruRPG. When you're just trying to look through things and make sense of what's what, it kind of just feels like it throws a lot of stuff at you randomly. There's some bundles here and there, and it's separated into Foundry, Path Builder, and then the PDF itself, and maybe maybe the physical book. It's just not organized particularly well, and it's kind of a nightmare to try and figure out what these things are individually, or like when they released, or, you know, if you just want to go through every single thing date by date chronologically and figure out which things you want, it's a little bit difficult. On top of that, I have tried the monster parts system in the past. I felt like it was overly complicated to give you very little. It's a little bit too balanced, as weird as that sounds. It kind of just reminded me of the crafting rules within PF2E before the remaster, which were pretty rubbish in my opinion, as they were too restrictive. I haven't actually checked them out since the remaster, so maybe things are a lot different now, I don't know. Anyway, that's enough of my criticism. Last on my list of third-party creators. The Team Plus guys are, again, pretty well known, and it makes a lot of sense why. They've got a few books out there that expand on some of the classes for Pathfinder 2e, such as Barbarians Plus, Wizards Plus, Summoners Plus, Clerics Plus, etc. They do things like add extra feats, subclasses, and a bunch of other stuff. These things are pretty well balanced. They tend to release the books, and then they have like a month or two testing, like properly balancing and make sure everything's fine before they release the Foundry and Path Builder module. So they have like commitment to balance, which is really nice. They're very in depth, and they do have a significant amount of content that we do actually add to these classes. But on top of that, they got expansions to regions like Impossible Lands Plus and Firebrands Plus for those who want an expansion to one of the organizations within PF2E. And they've got Magic Plus, which comes with an optional variant rule for casting spells for those who want to use a non-Vancian style casting system. My personal favorite is Feats Plus, though, as it's got a bunch of skill feats, general feats, etc. It's just filled to the brim with lots and lots and lots of feats, and I highly recommend that one over everything, honestly, from what I've seen and used. Feats Plus is the sort of thing I've wanted Paizo to release for a very long time now, to expand on some of the skill feats and general feats, and these guys did it. As for critiques, I mean, I don't particularly like the art style that comes with the books, but it is all properly drawn stuff. They do their own art, and it is amazing. The art's good, like, it's fine. It's just not my style, a little bit too cartoony for me, but that's just me really nitpicking and struggling to find criticism. I honestly think that the Teams Plus stuff is just really awesome. It's absolutely worth your money and worth your time. They tend to do bundles and stuff every now and then, so you get a bunch of stuff at once. It's how I got the majority of the content. So yeah, definitely keep an eye out for Teams Plus stuff. They keep releasing more and more stuff. They do community votes for people to pick on what they're going to do next. And yeah, absolutely, really cool, really worth your time. And I think that's going to be the end of my suggestions for this particular video chapter. I could talk about more awesome stuff, like I really liked the Harvest Compendium. As far as I'm aware, it hasn't been updated for the remaster. That might just be the Foundry module, though. It's still pretty usable from what I could tell. It allows a whole system of harvesting parts, similar to the Battlezoo version, but in my opinion, it was a little bit easier to use and a little bit more fun. So yeah, there's just so many really cool and interesting third-party supplements out there. If you just go to like DriveThruRPG or Pathfinder Infinite, you'll find a lot of them. You just need to keep your eye out for them, honestly, and I think we should be supporting these creators so we can get more people making awesome content for the system that we all love so much. I mean, honestly, the fact that I was not really aware of Dr. Dhrolin's Dictionary of Dinosaurs is the whole reason I started this video chapter. And so if you are a third-party creator and you don't feel as though you're getting enough attention, I might do another video like this at some point where I gather a few together and talk about them. Like I said, this isn't a sponsorship thing. This is me just literally trying to put out a good word for these creators because they do some really good work, and I think they deserve a lot more of a spotlight and support than they perhaps get. Of course, if you have the money spare, please go and purchase some of these supplements. Let's start funding our third-party creators so they can keep creating this amazing stuff for us, filling the gaps that Paizo are perhaps too busy to fill themselves. And please put in the comments any third-party content that you think is particularly good so I can take a look. And that's going to do it for this video chapter. If you found it helpful and or enjoyable, please give it a like and consider subscribing, joining as a member, or taking a look at my Patreon, especially if you want your name added to the end of this video. Speaking of, I would like to take a moment to thank my archivists and members: Max Magnus 20019, Ozzy Smith, Shard Sirakia, Nikola Milenkovic, Kyle Travis, and patron and archivist Clash. Thanks again, guys, for all your support. But for now, this is Dominic of the Domini Nomicon, wishing you a fond farewell, and until next time, goodbye.